Hey, what's going on everyone? Zoop here, and before we get underway, shout out to Octopus who provided this awesome Des Moines gameplay. Anytime you destroy 3/4 of the enemy's team, it deserves to be highlighted. So thank you and great round, good sir. Now, on to other things. It takes a lot to take an event that everyone's looking forward to, one that should be a surefire win, and completely destroy it with another event that was not only poorly planned and communicated, but deceptive in its requirements. The former, I'm talking about the New Year's event, and the latter, the Puerto Rico. I'm not going to spend all my time on Puerto Rico, but there are a few things I need to clarify first. My previous video pointing out there were other mess-ups throughout the year was indeed a little snarky. Well, I won't say snarky. I just like humor and pop culture references, and to make things a little more colorful sometimes. And even though I clearly stated the grind and the cost weren't worth it, the point of the video was to show that it wasn't worth crying over the Puerto Rico because it's a mediocre ship. I need to apologize though. I stand fully by what I said, however, as with most YouTube videos, this was created before the situation completely blew up. Overnight and into the morning, this became less about the Puerto Rico and more about how Wargaming was answering the situation and its treatment of the community. Had this occurred before I created my video, it would have taken a completely different tone. As a result, I was sent scrambling to Reddit to post some fairly sharp criticism, both in meme form and advice. And interestingly enough, sometimes I feel I'm a better memer than content creator, but that's beside the point. One of the responses I created formed the basis of this video, and it was a PR lesson. I had written this as what Wargaming should have said to us. To our loyal fans, we messed up. Though I dropped an F-bomb for emphasis. We apologize. We will review what went wrong to ensure it never happens again in the future. Please stand by as we look for a way to repay your loyalty. We ask your forgiveness and do truly care about you as a community. What then occurred from Wargaming was an attempt to justify their actions. Rather than an apology, it was a sorry not sorry retort that many saw more as an advertisement on how to complete ridiculous missions than actually answer for why the missions became so convoluted in the first place. Wargaming has a public relations issue. A serious one. And a lot of times, rather than making the situation better, they make it worse while alienating their loyal base. That's part of the problem with free-to-play games though, and in a way, players are sometimes seen as expendable. Plenty fish of the sea and all that. It doesn't have to be this way though, and I feel Wargaming can do a lot to atone for what has occurred, not only with the Puerto Rico, but everything in recent years. I have 5 steps that Wargaming can take to right the ship and set them on a good path moving forward. Whether they listen, I don't know. I hope they do because it's not too late to repair the fractured relationship with the community. First, 2 quick notes. I actually do know what I'm talking about in regards to both PR and business. I have an MBA, and one of my dissertations was on the EA Battlefield 4 debacle. EA had misled shareholders on pre-order numbers, inflating stock, and wound up getting sued. It wasn't only a PR disaster, but it was a legal disaster as well. This is kind of funny because Wargaming is actually being compared to EA as of late. Second, my job is very PR-centric. I have oversight of a $250 million federal contract. I interact daily with contracting CEOs who live and die by their relationships with me and my branch. If public relations did not exist, they simply would not survive. If I don't create a good working relationship, the ability to complete the mission dies. I know what I'm talking about with PR. The very first thing Wargaming must do to fix things is to admit that they have a PR problem. And this is a tall order. I honestly believe they don't think there's an issue, and all these recent problems are merely the ramblings of a few know-it-all CCs and Reddit, which they'll argue is anti-Wargaming as it is. If they can't admit there's a problem, sorry, but more things like Puerto Rico will happen, and the community/developer relationship will fracture further. This is a problem, a huge one, and it needs to be fixed. Admit that you have a PR problem. 2. Hire a dedicated full-time PR manager, czar, director, whatever you want to call them, And I'm not talking about using a developer as a PR mouthpiece. I'm talking about someone from the outside, divested of the game, who can look at the entire situation unbiased. Someone not married to a ship, an event, or a project, and that doesn't have strong feelings towards the game as a whole. And I'll caveat this. Wargaming may very well have a PR director. It might not be their full-time job though, or even worse, they might provide advice that gets unheeded. Basically, hire someone who understands public relations, what looks good and what looks bad. Individuals working in PR are smart. They can learn and understand the game and the community in a matter of days. Hire them and listen to them. 3. Move PR operations to North America. The new PR director should be from North America, or at the very least, Western Europe. Look, I have nothing against Russia, but let's face it, business practices vary from country to country. The Russian way is very direct. It's, we will do it this way. No excuses, get it done. Even if the results are disastrous. Again, that whole doubling down thing. There's very little room for conversation. This business model does not work with a global title. I've always felt that North America understands the community very well, and I feel if they were running the PR and had a larger say in what's happening, things like the Puerto Rico would have never happened. Which also brings up a good point. You have to listen to your employees, especially when they understand the market and can tell you, no, this is not a good idea. Moving on. 4. All dialogue should be filtered through the PR director, czar, guru, or whatever you want to call him or her. This means every single thing a developer posts on Reddit. This means anything a Wargaming employee posts on Facebook. Everything. And this individual must have the authority to say, no, you are not posting this, and here's why. A quick read over, and I could have helped this situation immensely. And that's where my what should have been response stemmed from. It's too easy. In lieu of hiring a dedicated PR director, if they don't go this route, have someone at the very least proofread from a different region and listen to what they say. Run it by them. Say, hey, Bob, look at what I'm about to post on Reddit. Does this make sense? Does this sound good? How do you think the community is going to react? Does this make the situation worse, or does this make the situation better? And when that person comes back and says, hey, you know, I don't think you should post this. This is going to make things a lot worse. Don't post it. Don't double down, because it only makes the situation worse. It makes it a lot worse. And that's exactly what's happened with the Puerto Rico. 5th and final. Admit you were wrong and give a real no BS apology. Don't bookend it with a but, because we all know everything before the word but is meaningless. Admit you were wrong and tell us how you're going to make it right. I'd start by giving a grace period for the Puerto Rico, in which players that invested doubloons not knowing how unobtainable the ship would be can have them refunded. That's if you double down and leave this event as it is. And I really hope you don't, but you've already come out and said that, hey, we never intended this to be for everyone in the community, but that 1% of players that apparently sits at the computer 24/7 and has nothing but time. I don't even know if that exists. But a bigger part of this whole thing is transparency. Obviously, you can't give away your business tactics. But had the community contributors, and everyone else known that the playtest version of the Puerto Rico event would have been as long as it was going into it, and was going to be changed to what it is now, I think there wouldn't be an issue with it. Or at least like we have right now. Had we known from the onset that, hey guys, this event's only going to be for our most loyal players, the 1% of the 1%, had you told us that going into it, I don't think we would have had the massive issue we have right now. And again, that's a PR issue. PR could have looked at that and said, hey, look, you know, if you do it this way, this is what's going to happen. And of course, hindsight's 20/20, but we've had so many of these issues that we shouldn't need hindsight by now. We should know going into it that, hey, you know, this is going to rankle the community. Let's draft a plan. Let's draft a statement and put it out there so down the road we don't have this issue. But that seems to never ever happen with anything. It looks predatory when someone spends 20,000 doubloons only to see a message pop up saying, hey, spend 35,000 more doubloons to get this ship. That's like buying a car and finding out you need to spend another $5,000 for the key. It's not only shady, but it's illegal in many countries. And that's one of the big reasons why people are so pissed off right now. They didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know this was going to happen. And Wargaming provided me with these doubloons for free. And when I started chunking them into the Puerto Rico and started making progress, even I was shocked when I thought, okay, I'm pretty close to completion, and that, hey, if you want to buy it, spend another 35,000 doubloons popped up. I think it was 35,000, right? That's just bad business right there. It's bad tactics. As I said, it's predatory. It's not good. And had someone in PR looked over it, they would have picked that up right away and said, hey, you can't do this. Hey, you shouldn't do this. But you got to listen to them. You can't just say, no, we're doing it anyways. Because if you do that too often, you do wind up with lawsuits. You do wind up in a situation that EA got into. And they have a full-fledged PR division. And again, I don't know if Wargaming does or doesn't, but if they do, you have to reconfigure it to actually work. The good news is there's still time to fix this. There's still time to repair the fractured relationship with the community. Please, Wargaming, I'm not providing these recommendations to say I told you so, or because I don't like Wargaming. Quite the contrary. I love the game. I love the company and the community. I've met a lot of you. I've met a lot of the developers. And that's the employees inside North America and outside North America. I've grown close to some of you all. I know you all care about this game a lot. And I don't know if it's higher that's pushing these things or not. And you're just responding. And they're telling you, no, you will do this regardless whether you think it's right or wrong. And if that's the case, there's an issue right there as well. Because this starts at the top and trickles down. You have to hold your ground. You have to stand your ground. And when something doesn't look right, you have to say, look, this is not right. This will hurt us in the long run. And if management's not willing to listen to you, well, all I can say is, as employees, you've built yourselves some very good resumes doing what you've done. It might be time to look for a company that actually does listen to you and cares about your opinions. And I'm not trying to tell people at Wargaming to jump ship. I'm not. But if you're sitting there and things aren't right and your advice is getting overlooked, I mean, you got to do what you got to do. So yeah, I do think that the PR situation over Wargaming is a sinking ship right now. But the problem is, we as a community, when this happens, we get outraged for a week or so, and then it's old news. And when that happens, it just happens again, and the cycle repeats. So this time, guys, girls, women, men, we have to remember the Puerto Rico. We have to remember what happened here. We have to keep this at the forefront of our minds, because if we don't, it's going to happen again. That's all I've got to say about this, really. This is how you fix the current situation. I know you all have many feelings about this as well, so I'd love to open the comments section up to everyone. Please, let Wargaming know what you think about this and everything else. Try to keep it constructive, but I know people have some very, very deep feelings about this situation. Anyhow, hopefully we can move beyond this. Hopefully. Zoop out.